I give up gardening. That's it. I'm throwing in the towel. Not all gardening, that is, but vegetable gardening. And I'll tell you why in a second. I grew up gardening ever since I was a little kid. My parents had greenhouses, they grew tons of produce, and they sold it in the market. And all I knew was vegetable gardening. I also knew sunflower gardening, but I really loved flower gardening. So I tried to replicate this sort of in our home, and I tried to grow all sorts of things, not so much on a production level to sell to markets, but more for ourselves. So I tried to grow everything, not just one variety of produce. And I tried to grow all sorts of things that we didn't even eat, just to experiment with them. And I grew a lot of what we do eat. But I kind of am tired of growing vegetables, and I would really love to take a break. And over the past couple years, I've started to lose my love for growing vegetables. That's not to say that I'm going to stop growing vegetables completely. I will continue to grow vegetables, that is the things that we do consume on a regular basis, like tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, potatoes, and butternut squash. The other things like kale and such, I will be growing those, but not in huge quantities. And I will basically cut down drastically on my vegetable growing. I made a goal the past few years that I wanted to grow all the food that we will eat in a year. And I think that actually added more stress to me than I expected it to. And that is because in the past 2 years, I believe, or 3 years, I'm not exactly sure when that happened anymore, we added some new soil into these beds, and we also added new beds in that section over there. So all this new soil had brought in tons and tons of weeds with it. As you can see, the vegetable garden is ridden with weeds. And it made it really difficult to maintain. That meant either I have to spend all my days over here weeding the vegetable garden, or spend a whole lot of money on mulching the vegetable garden, like using hay, for example. And hay is not cheap, and I cannot get enough hay to cover this entire vegetable garden. Now, if you've been around here for a while, you would know that I love flower gardening. I love creating flower beds, designing them, experimenting with new plants, and creating beautiful spaces for our family, and also in the process helping you guys to also create those beautiful spaces in your own home gardens. This love of flower gardening has been growing tremendously in me, and I've always loved it in the first place, and my vegetable gardening love has been dwindling. So what we are going to do is we are going to cut our garden in half, basically, and we are going to get rid of this section over here, not completely, but we are going to put it to dormancy for 2 seasons. This will give me a break for 2 seasons from this garden, and it will give this garden a break for 2 seasons. This is what's going to happen, basically. You see this bed right here. I have worked on it yesterday. I had some potatoes planted in here. I already harvested them yesterday and pulled up all the weeds that were in here, and then I installed this Solarizing plastic. So this plastic right here is going to stay over this bed for 2 seasons. And these rocks over here are holding this plastic from flying away, because we do get a lot of wind over here, and this plastic will definitely not stay here. Now there's an issue over here that I do have some gaps in here that will have to be addressed. So because for sure the weeds are going to start sprouting in here as soon as they see the light of day. So we'll have to address that later. So this plastic's job is basically to kill all the seed bank that's in here. Also, during the process of bringing in new soil to this garden, we accidentally brought some unwanted pests like cutworms and things that basically eat our root crops, all sorts of different insects. And I can introduce nematodes to fix this problem, but also Solarizing will help with that. Anything that's close to the surface is going to basically get baked by this Solarizing plastic. Now, this is working right now because it's heating up the soil. You also want to keep the soil somewhat moist. You don't want it to dry out completely, because that's going to help with the baking process. And it's also going to aid some of those seeds to germinate. And then when they do germinate, they're not going to see the light and they are going to die. So that's kind of a double whammy. And the heat will also kill any of the insects that are close to the surface. Now, I don't know how deep that will go down. I'll try to find some research paper on that and I'll link it in the description box below. This is going to need about 2 seasons to effectively kill the seed bank that is in here. And that is the goal. So we're going to do this same process that we did over here on 2 beds. This is the plastic that I've been using. It comes in 4 by 50 foot rolls, and I just roll it and then I cut it to the size that I want. I wish it was a little bit bigger, like 5 foot long, 5 foot wide instead of the 4 foot wide, so that the edges on the sides would also be covered. I may have to come back with another sheet and kind of have them overlap the bed, so do 2 sheets on each bed of this plastic. It's very thin. It's actually called solar mulch, and I'll put a link for it in the description box below if you are planning on using it as a mulch or solarizing your flower beds or vegetable beds, whatever it is you're planning on solarizing. And hopefully that will stay for 2 seasons. We'll see. I'll kind of take you along and show you the results, and also show you if any damage occurs to it, how well it holds up to the environment. So hopefully it will work in the way that I want it to. We'll see what happens. Again, I'll update you in 2 years. So this will hopefully kill any of the jumping worms because they do not live deep in the soil. And from my understanding is that they don't stay alive during the winter. I don't know I don't know how the worm repopulation works. I have no idea. I don't know. Don't they split or something? Do they lay eggs? I don't know. Are they like amoebas? I have no idea. Anyways, that will hopefully kill the jumping worms by using this solarizing plastic, if there are any there, that is. On another note, the lavender over here is doing amazingly well. It has put on so much growth. I mean, look at this. I'm in love with it. And it smells amazing. So good. So good. I love it. This will leave us with all the beds that are on this side. I usually grow my tomatoes in this bed over here, but I may change that next season. I don't know. I've already planted the garlic in that bed over there. It's a 16 by kind of 3.5 or something of the sort, 8, and this huge long bed over here. And they're all kind of 16 by 3 or 16 by 3.5, with exception to this one right there because it's close to the wellhead. These will be my vegetable beds in here. I also have some perennials in these beds over here, like blackberries and honeyberries and raspberries and such. So that will cut down my maintenance by a lot because I can just mulch them and leave them be, and I don't have to plant anything next to them. I can, and even with mulch next to them, I can still plant some vegetables, but I just don't want to overcrowd them. That's the thing. This area will sit here for 2 seasons, solarizing, giving me a break and allowing me to do the thing that I love the most, and that is growing flowers and shrubs and trees and all sorts of things, and creating beautiful spaces like the flower bed that we've been working on in the past video. That's next to the spruce tree over there. Sorry for the sun. You'll be seeing a lot more flower videos while I take a break from my vegetable gardening. And this is my advice to you. If you are doing something because you think it's going to make you happy, but it's not making you happy, well, maybe it's time to stop doing it and do something that actually does make you happy, like growing flowers or growing vegetables if that's what makes you happy. It's time to just give it a break and do something else until I have the time to preserve food again, because it's something that I actually do love, but at this moment in my life, it's not working out for me. So it's time to do the thing that is bringing me joy. Now, when it comes to tomatoes, I do want to preserve tomatoes because I don't like to buy them canned in the aluminum cans because that can cause a lot of health issues. So I will continue to preserve tomatoes, and they don't take that much to preserve, and I can always freeze dry them. And if you do like freeze drying, I'll leave my affiliate link for the Harvest Right freeze dryer. I do a lot of freeze drying as well, if that's something that you like to do. And I do encourage you to try out freeze drying because honestly it is amazing, and it cuts down on a lot of preservation time if you are short on time like I am. Also, fruits that are freeze-dried taste amazing, like mangoes. It is one of our favorite freeze-dried foods, and berries as well. They taste just absolutely amazing. And when I freeze dry mangoes, they're gone in like one day. So I have to freeze dry a lot of mangoes. So right now I'm gonna put you on a time lapse and we're gonna clean up this garden. This will be very satisfying, I think, just to see all these weeds and everything get cleaned up. Now I can't clean up everything, unfortunately, at this moment, because I have plants still that I want to keep, like the snapdragons over here and like the Brussels sprouts over there. So with these snapdragons, I do want to save the seeds because I do love them. They were very beautiful and I want to repeat this next season, not in this bed of course, in a different area, because they continue to flower from spring all the way throughout the fall. And you can see we've had several frosts, we've even had a hard frost, and they're still going strong. So I want to save some seeds from these, and I think that if I do cut them back, they'll probably produce even more flowers. So we'll see what happens. Once they're done, then I'll cover this bed and be done with this bed. And it's kind of falling apart over here, so I may have to put a piece of wood in here and patch it up a little bit. Maybe I'll replace these beds altogether. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. All right, let's get started. Sage plant is really stuck in there. It's not a perennial in our zone. We are in zone 5B, 6A. Oh, it smells so good. I've already preserved so much sage. Look at these roots. Man. Before I can add this mulch over here, broken down mulch, into the bed, I have to take the irrigation out and then put it on again. So that means I'm gonna have to move all this hay, because I don't want the irrigation to be 6-inch deep. But I am keeping the hay in this bed because that makes great organic matter. This is basket flower or basket weave flower. I don't know. I forgot its name, but I'm gonna try to save some of the seeds. It was very beautiful. It's not something that you want necessarily in the front of your flower bed because it does look kind of unkempt, but it is something that you can put behind other plants so that the foliage of those plants would hide the tall stems and the unattractive foliage of this plant. But it does have some beautiful flower heads on it. This is day 1 and I think I've made quite a bit of progress. Yes, I only covered one bed, but I pulled up the weeds from the other bed, and also filming takes time. I also pulled up the weeds from over there, and I put down the compost in this bed and from over here and around it, around the other bed right there. So that all takes time, and it's gonna look very good very soon. Filming does take time because I'm trying to think of what to say to you guys, and I'm trying to position the cameras in different positions so that it's not boring. And I want to make this video entertaining, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that. So bear with me. Right now I'm going to go inside, make some dinner, and then hopefully in a couple days from now I'll be able to work some more on these beds, and maybe if I'm able to, I'll record the progress, or I may just show you the end result. We'll see. This bed that I was working on right here had my peppers. It also had some nasturtiums and basket weave flowers, or whatever it's called. I keep forgetting its name. And a whole lot of weeds. Oh, it had dahlias also that I wasn't able to see because of the weeds. This method is going to help me tackle the weeds, and in a couple seasons from now we'll be able to plant these beds. And look at these monstrous Brussels sprouts. They are starting to make their sprouts, but I'm not watering them. I haven't fertilized them again or anything, so I don't know if they're gonna grow any bigger than this. We'll see. I do hope they do, but they're looking good. It's all filled up with it. Look at that. Very exciting. All of this, oh my goodness. They just keep going. And this one here too.